episode number 136 with Ben Hayles. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thanks for tuning in. I am here with returning guest Ben Hayles. He was on episode number 75 with Clayton Fletcher, and he's back again. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Steve. Good to be back.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good. Ben and I talked pretty much exactly 48 hours ago, right, Ben?
That's right. We did.
Ben gave me a little coaching session. If you guys have a Hold'em Manager 2 and you want a guy to really go through it with you, Ben is your man. We looked through my Hold'em Manager 2 and we found that although I was winning a whopping, 2.2 big blinds in early position, I could probably improve that a little bit. So he pointed that out. I need to play a little less junk from early position. I could probably 3-bet out of the big blind a little bit more, and I need to work on my 16 to 25 big blind stack. I could reshove a little bit more from those, so that was really helpful to me.
Good summary, Steve. You were listening then.
Oh, I got notes and everything. Yeah, I can't wait to play again because I'm going to start using this stuff. This is when I get that 8-7 suited in early position, I'm not going to raise it. Every time. I'm probably only going to be doing it 10% of the time now instead. Maybe I could actually show a better profit in early position.
Yeah, the key with those hands is to have a fairly deep stack. If there's if you got a suited connector in early position, it always looks good and it's nice to balance your range out. But if you've got 30 big blind stacks, it's not the right hand. So you just want to be playing them with deeper stacks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think, I don't know that I would have done that with 30 bigs, but definitely I would have raised those hands with 40 bigs, and I think even that's pretty shallow, right?
Yeah, it's pretty shallow. I'd usually fold it,
Okay, yeah. All right, I think in my effort to be deceitful, it was just costing me money.
It depends who your opponents are, right? You don't want to have too much bluffing, balancing going on when you've got loads of loose callers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you've been a busy bee. You've got a new book coming out that you did with James Sweeney. You guys may know him as Split Suit. He's got. You said he's probably the most prolific video producer of poker training videos, right?
I don't know. I'm guessing, just based on if you YouTube stuff, you'll nearly always come. Yeah, he's just there. He's everywhere. James, he is a prolific video producer, and his content is amazing. He's such an intelligent guy. So yeah, I was contacted by him on Twitter. And he was bloody lucky that I was paying attention because sometimes I don't have that on for like a week. But he asked me to collaborate on this new book and I jumped at the chance. It's been a really exciting project.
Right on. How long have you guys been working on it?
About 3 months, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been pretty intense project, but it's all done. It's all ready to roll and it's out on September the 5th. Oh, hang on. You're like going to have to edit that now. It's out today, right? I just say it's out today. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Normally, you guys know this podcast comes out on Mondays, but we're kicking it back 24 hours and coming out on Tuesday so that it comes out exactly the day that this book is released. I'm super excited. It's the Final Tables Workbook. So if Final Tables is a Achilles heel or a weakness of yours, like it is mine, then this book could be very helpful. You you sent me a couple strategy hands from the book, and as I was working through it, I was starting to see the genius of how you guys put this together, and it's pretty impressive because it reminded me of one of Andrew Brokos's training videos, in that you're not just passively reading a book and not getting anything out of it. You have to actively get out the pen and paper. You should pull up an equity calculator and really run through these ranges and see if you understand how to, when to call and when to fold and what to do, and it really causes you to sit down and dissect what this guy's range could be. And you even put in there that this is a loose passive player, or he's a solid tight aggressive player, or a weak tight aggressive player, or a loose passive player. It was really good. I'm excited for the full book.
Yeah, there's 40 exercises, and the book's divided into 3 main sections. So section 1 is hands 1 to 10, and in this section you're focused on building your range. So if, for example, you raise an early position, the question will be, what's your range for opening in early position? So you might answer, okay, I'm going to raise ace jack suited and better, ace queen off and better, or whatever your range is, and put in your pocket pairs, and then we'll look at the range and say, well, what percentage is that? How many combinations is it? Flopzilla or Poker Cruncher are the ideal tools to be using to get the most out of this. And each question will go through street by street. So you reach the flop, the turn, the river. There are some pre-flop shove hands as well. But there's mainly it's going through to the turn and the river. And you take the range from pre-flop, and then you take it through to the flop, which is what you should be doing when you're playing live, right? You should be linear with your range. You shouldn't be suddenly adding hands in. And it gets you into this habit of tunneling through and narrowing down on your range. And then just coming back to the structure of the book, hands 11 to 30 do the same thing, but focus on the villain's range. So now you know your hole cards, but you don't know the villain's hole cards. So you're focusing on, okay, well, what's he got? And this is where it becomes really challenging, because when you're playing live, you sometimes forget to do this.
Yeah.
And it gets you in the habit of doing it, and helps somebody become a player who thinks in ranges. And then the final 10 hands in the book are really, really challenging, because what they're doing is giving you no information on the hole cards. The situation's there, so you can see the hand progress through, but you don't know what either player's got. So you have to build the ranges for both players, which is teaching you about range advantage. So you're doing range versus range analysis, and seeing at all times, which player's got which range has got more equity, because you should be looking in your equity calculator as you go through the book. Absolutely fascinating, and it really does help you to become more competent at this thought process, and just it's going to help improve your game immensely.
Yeah, no, I definitely see the value in it. I spent about an hour and a half last night dissecting the 2 hands that you sent me, and I could have spent longer. I mean,
well,
you can
exactly,
kind of go down a rabbit hole and just, take this as far as you want. It was.
That's exactly what we're after. That is the goal, is to say, right, well, hand 1, okay, off you go. If it takes you 3 hours, brilliant, because what you've done is dissected it, and then you may have thought, oh, well, what if I had 15 big blinds instead of 10 big blinds, and you change the parameters, and you work out and see how things fit together like a great big jigsaw puzzle, and you can really start to see some patterns in the way that ranges work, which because everything's so specific in the workbook, you can sometimes feel like, oh, well, I'm never going to see this again, but that's not true. You are going to see it again, but you just need to be able to spot the patterns, and then you'll be able to translate it back to the table when you're playing live. And you'll remember, in this type of spot, his range is a bit like this, and therefore, and it starts to mean something.
Yeah. Well done, man. This, I've only seen 2 of the hands in the cover of the book, but I'm looking forward to this coming out, and Yeah, this is. I've never seen a book quite like this. This is pretty slick. It. Yeah, let's move on to the first hand. First, I'm going to tell you guys about Tournament Poker Edge. You guys like tournaments? Ben and I like tournaments. Let's get better at these things we call poker tournaments. Join Tournament Poker Edge. They have thousands of training videos. You can go to the forums. You can post in the forums. You guys can just get better at tournaments. Go to tournamentpokeredge.com, or you can click on the link in the show notes, and if you sign up, use the code HUP month, HUP quarter, or HUP year, depending on how long you want to join. I just do a yearly. I just sign up every year. It's auto. It just signs me up, and I've always got a subscription. I watch these videos every single day, and the site is awesome. Ben actually has a series up there on how to get better at using Hold'em Manager too. So join Tournament Poker Edge and get better at poker tournaments. Okay, the first hand is hand number 14, and I've got copious notes here, Ben, so you gotta excuse the paper shuffling.
I'm impressed.
All right. Okay, the first hand here, we are 7-handed, and it says you are at the final table of an $11 online tournament. You've been tangling quite a bit with this loose, passive player who has been calling too wide on all streets. So it says, let's see, constructing ranges for calling stations can seem like a thankless task, but the ranges are not completely random. This player is 39-9, so he limps into the pot or calls 39% of the time, and he raises 9% of the time with a 4% 3-bet and has no positional awareness. Now, this to me sounds like I wish every single player we played against had these stats. But
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Says eliminate any hands he would 3-bet, and what are you left with? So a 39-9, 39% is very wide. 9% raising is pretty tight, and 4% 3-bet is extremely tight. So basically, when this guy is 3-betting, 4% 3-bet is something like 9s plus and ace king, or it would be like 10s plus and ace queen. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then as far as his raising hands, he might bring it down 7s plus, and then you bring in ace queen, maybe ace jack suited, and down to ace queen offsuit, and maybe throw in a king queen suited there or a king queen offsuit. So the guy's really tight when he comes in raising, but he's extremely loose when he's calling. Really wide range.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Should we go through the action pre-flop and explain that we're sat in mid position in the low jack, so button -3, and we're holding ace king offsuit, and we raise to 3 big blinds. The action folds to the button where this loose passive player is sat, and this is the player we're focused on. And there are 2 players sat in the blinds, and I don't think we'll go through all the stack size information other than to say that relative between us and the loose passive player, his stack is the effective stack, and he's got 55 big blinds deep. So there's there's quite a bit in play here. There's a player who's folded who's only got 13 big blinds. So in terms of tangling with bigger stacks, we don't really want to be busting out because of all the ICM implications.
Yeah. Final table, there's 7 people left. First pays 11,000, and we're guaranteed at 7th now 1,400. So top heavy. I think it would be a shame to bust here, or at least lose all our stuff.
It would. This is a type of spot where we just want to be making really good decisions, give ourselves the best chance of a 5-figure payout. You're playing an $11 tournament. You've probably been here 10 hours already,
yes.
And it's crucial to be making smart choices. So the question is all about this opponent's range, and the leading questions. What happens in the workbook is you've got to build the ranges yourselves. but there's leading questions on each page helping you. And the one on this page is saying, well, would the button 3-bet or call with ace queen and then 9-9? And the reason that these two hands are chosen is that they're kind of borderline, right? I mean, he might call with ace queen or he might 3-bet. And you've got to think about, in your mind, is he going to 3-bet or call and make a decision on it? And you might say he's sometimes going to 3-bet, sometimes going to call, and that's fine. Honestly, on this one, I would say that's probably a pretty reasonable answer. I think he's more likely to call with pocket nines than to 3-bet, because a 4% 3-bet doesn't always include 9-9. And yeah, it seems like a spot where I would expect him perhaps to call more often.
Yeah.
So if I'm building this range, I'm just going to eliminate those top hands. So jacks through to aces, possibly tens, and ace king. An ace king suited, and then possibly ace queen suited, but not a lot more, because he just doesn't 3-bet very often. So we're not eliminating too many hands, but they are important to eliminate, and then we don't take them through to the flop. And then the next thing to work out is, what on earth is he calling with? What's the weakest hand in his range for calling?
Yeah, I threw this into a slice, and if he's calling here 39% of the time, I got any suited ace, I got any pair, so 2s plus, I got any offsuit ace, so basically any ace, any suited king, offsuit kings, king 7 off plus, and then the suited connectors. So 40% of hands basically here he's flicking in a call with, if his numbers are 39, 9, 4. Does that sound accurate, or would you tighten that up a little bit because we raised?
Did you think? Have you come up with a 40% calling range?
Yeah, pretty well. 39 is what I slid the marker over on slice, and then I kind of took out some of the weaker ones and maybe threw in some of the other 10-8 suited and stuff like that. Does that?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit narrower than that, because he's responding to a raise.
Okay.
And even though he's a loose passive player making huge mistakes, he will be tighter, slightly tighter, and he's more likely to be calling with something. I know he's on the button, but he's not really positionally aware, so that's not really coming into the equation much. You might think it is. You might see him on the button and think, oh, he's going to call with lots of hands. But to him, it's just another position. Yeah. So he's calling with, I would say, about 30%. In fact, I think when I ran this through, I came out with 29 point something as his calling range. I think going up towards 40 is okay, but certainly, more than 35 is probably pushing it a bit.
Okay, yeah, because you're right. He is responding to a raise, and this 39% is taking into account when he's just open limping, random hands or suited connectors or stuff in middle position, and but it's also taking into account when somebody's opened the pot and they've raised. So yeah, you're probably right. 39 is probably pretty wide.
But I mean, if you're calling this a mistake that you've made, then it's a really interesting and common mistake that people make. And you look at the VPIP and you think, oh, that's what he's doing in this spot. But what you've got to do with VPIP, like any other stat, is think about it in context. VPIP is telling you all of the time, this is his average, the amount of time he plays a hand, right? This is the amount of time he puts money into the pot. It's not telling you how often he responds to a raise.
True.
And so you do need to think about, just dulling that number down a bit.
Okay.
And so I think about 30% is a good number. I actually weighted in nearly all the hands and said that certainly the suited hands, even some of the really weak ones, he might sometimes call with. Even if it's just like 10% of the time, he's going to call with 9-2 suited. Just because of the type of character he is, he could get quite random. And so I had most of the hands that you had in there, plus lots and lots of suited hands, connected hands that he might just sometimes call along with. And so mine came out at overall at just slightly less than 30%.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we raised to 3 big blinds. Button, the loose passive player calls. We've got ace king offsuit. Both blinds fold. And we go to a flop. There's 8.2 big blinds in the flop. And we've got 52 big blinds effective now after the raise. With ace king offsuit, the flop is king of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. So we had top pair, top kicker. The action's on us. With a loose passive player that has position on us, we bet out 6 big blinds into 8.2. I think that's standard. And he calls. So now we say, here it says, your opponent will likely be calling with any pair or any hint of a drawing hand, including backdoor draws. I think that's accurate for a loose passive calling station. Eliminate any hands you think he would fold and build his calling range here. So here I threw this one into slice, and on a flop of king of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 spades, I put that he's definitely continuing with pocket fours. I think he's continuing with any 8. He's probably continuing with, he's definitely continuing with any king, any 2 hearts. And then I also put, since it said that it's continuing with backdoor draws, I've got queen jack, queen 10, jack 10, queen 9, jack 9, 10 9, suited with hearts and with spades for the backdoor draw. And then I also have 10 9 off, jack 9 off, and jack 10 off. Do you have those 3 in there as well?
I can't remember offhand. I've not got my precise range in front of me, but I would think that it's very likely to include those hands. Yeah, at least at this stage. It's a relatively cheap bet for him to call, and it's in his nature to just call here with most of his hands. So you're going to find that, he will chuck something where he's not got anything, If he did arrive here with 9-2 of diamonds or something, he is going to throw that type of hand away. But if he's got any type of piece of this action, he's calling, because that's the type of player he is.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to sort of build his range for this one. If you started with 40% of hands or 30% like I did, then that's going to narrow a little bit for just some of the junk. What about hands like ace 7? What do you think he's going to do with that?
Well, I've got both ace 7s in there. If ace 7 is heart or ace 7 is spade. And then as far as ace 7 offsuit, I've got ace 7 offsuit in there if he's got the ace of spades. So 3 combos of ace 7 offsuit. And then 1 combo of ace 7 heart. 2 combos, ace 7 heart and ace 7 spade.
Good. Okay. So you're including all the backdoor draws, flush draws, but you're not making him call randomly with a ace high hand, which I think is probably right. I think he probably does throw away that hand, but it's not guaranteed. But for the purposes of this exercise, I think I would say that he is likely to fold his junk.
Okay.
Just a reminder, we've got a flop of king of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. We've bet 6 big blinds, and he calls along.
Yeah, we got ace king offsuit for top pair, top kicker.
Yeah, so we head on into the turn.
Okay, yeah, so I got his range here now on the flop when he calls at about 20%. So we've gone from 30 to 20. I think that's pretty close.
Well, you've gone from 40 to 20.
True.
Yeah. So you've actually got him folding out quite a high percentage of his hand range. I had him folding out less than that, but that's just probably due to the starting hand ranges that we had.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're probably now in a more accurate place.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and then right here in part of the workbook it says, do you think the button would raise or call with King 10, 4-4, and flush draws? I'm thinking King 10, I think a calling station is calling. 4-4 for bottom set. I could see him raising or just calling with this. I'm running through all the calling stations I've played with in my life, and I think most of the time they're calling here, and then there's a few that are raising a set here just because they're afraid of the flush draw. So I could see that going either way. It's like Carlos Welsh says, when a passive player raises, you're beat.
Yeah, and it would be a brave fold in this spot, but it's very true. He doesn't really raise very often, and when he does, it is going to be hands like those. But I agree with you. I think he's actually going to call more often than raise with pocket fours, at least until the turn, and then I also think it would be smarter for him to just call, because he's got enough betting room to get all the chips in by the river. Because he's in position, there's no need to rush the action. When you're out of position, sometimes in this type of spot, you might check raise instead of check call with a set, because of trying to build the pot and trying to avoid the problem of being out of position and failing to get chips in the middle. But in this spot, he can just let you do the betting. So I expect him to call along, and I included his sets in my range for him.
Yeah, I've got him calling flush draws too. I don't think a calling station very often raises.
Definitely.
Even the nut flush draw. I think they're calling. It's what they do. They're a calling station.
Definitely, that's exactly the right way to look at it, and that is what they do. And that's still true as we move through to the turn.
Okay. So we got 20.2 big blinds going to the turn in the pot. The turn is the 9 of clubs. So again, we've got ace king offsuit, 46 bigs effective, 20.2 in the pot, and with a flop of king of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. Turn is the 9 of clubs. Pretty safe turn for us. So we lead out 16 big blinds, and the calling station, lo and behold, he calls. So on the turn here, with a pretty inconsequential turn, I didn't remove too many hands from his range. The only things I removed was I went from 20% down to about 17 or 18%. I kept in pocket fours, pocket eights. I still have him calling with any 8, but I did take away all the backdoor flush draws. So I took out all the spade. I took all those out. Kept any king in there. From king 7 off above, and then any suited king. Any suit, just because he's got top pair still. I took out all the ace X offsuit, so like ace 10 offsuit with the ace of hearts, dumping that, and the only offsuit aces I've got are ace 4 off, ace 8 off, and ace 9 off, because each one of those will have a pair.
And he's continuing with. He's continuing with ace 4, is he?
I don't know. Maybe I need to wait that one.
I don't know. Pocket sixes. Is he still here? Is he calling again with such a marginal sort of hand that's not going anywhere? He's a calling station. He might do. Might do.
I dumped 5s, 6s, and 7s. I don't know how. And then we pretty much removed 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, kings, and aces, because he would have 3-bet those pre-flops, so we can take those out of his range pretty safely, I think. So the only pocket pairs I have with him have him with right now are pocket eights and pocket fours. I think on this turn when we bet almost pot, I'm sure there's plenty of calling stations that would prove me wrong, but I took out 5s, 6s, and 7s.
Good. Okay.
All right.
So the question asks us, what do you think your opponent is going to do with these hand strengths? So first of all, not flush draws. What do you expect him to do with a flush draw now? Ace of hearts out.
I think he's still going to call. There, maybe 10 or 20% of the time he raises, but running through all the calling stations I've had, I think that I think most of the time they call here and they just want to see a river, see if they get there.
Yeah, definitely. Call heavily weighted towards calling here.
Yeah. Okay. Set of fours. What do we think he does with a set of fours? If he's going to raise, I think this is probably one of the ones where he's. I think he's more likely to raise on the turn with a set of fours than he is on the flop.
Yeah, I think that again, if you're going to give him a raise to any of these, then this is the hand that he's most likely to raise. But if you said call to this, I think that's okay. He's in position on the river. He can wait and make the bet on the river. It's not a bad play to call again. Yeah. So I think, the passive player calling here is perfectly rational. If you would raise, remember the question is not asking, would you raise? The question's asking, do you think this player is going to raise? Yeah. And we're analyzing a specific type of opponent who makes the mistake of being really passive, and he's more likely to call still. Yeah. Okay. Two pair. If he turned like 8-9, if he had king 9, right. Hands like that. I can't imagine this guy calling with 9-4, so I don't think that would make a. I don't think that's it. Yeah, I think he'd have probably folded 9-4 pre-flop or perhaps on the flop. So yeah. Okay. So some of his two pair hands, what's he going to do? He's going to call again, similar to the set, isn't it? I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's much more heavily weighted towards calling. And then the next one is top pair, so King Jack. King Jack, I think he's calling. Yeah, I don't think he's going to raise there with that. And then some of the other hands I had in his range too here were Jack 10, and that's the fifth example here. What's he doing with Jack 10, spade? So he missed the back door, but he did pick up an open ender. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't just call here and try to peel off a 7 or a queen. I see a reason why he shouldn't, but yeah, of course, he's a calling station. That's what he does. He picks up a draw. He doesn't think, I've got 8 outs times by 2. That gives me a 16% chance of hitting. He doesn't think like that. Yeah. He thinks, it looks good. It looks pretty. I can call. I can win a big pot if I hit. Yeah. And so, he's going to call along with this type of hand. Even though he's not got the right odds, as you and I know, yes, he's still going to make the call. Yes, he's a calling station. So good, you've done well. So he doesn't fold out many hands to this bet. There are a few, and he narrows down. What was your range now? 17.8%. So basically, all the ace queen suited down to ace 2 suited of hearts, any suited king, so king queen suited down to king 2 suited, king queen off down to king 7 off. I've got him here with ace 9 off, ace 8 off, ace 4 off. Maybe we need to weight that a little bit, 30 or 50% of the time. I got him here with queen 8 off, jack 10 off, jack 9 off, 10-9 off, pocket 8s, pocket 4s, and then queen 8 suited down to 9-8 suited, and then queen 7 suited down to 8-7 suited of hearts, and then I've got the broadways in here,
10-9 suited up to Queen Jack suited, both spades and hearts.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So that's almost 18%. We go to the river. So we've got 52.2 big blinds in the pot. We've got 30 big blinds effective. We have ace king offsuit, and the river is the 4 of hearts. So the final board is king of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 spades. Turn was the 9 of clubs. River is the 4 of hearts. And the action here is we go all in. And the loose passive player on the button, he calls. So, from the range of hands the button called the turn with, which hands will he call the river bet with? This was a little more interesting. I put his range on the river that he would call. I got it down to about 15%. So
it's not narrowed much, has it?
not really. No, I don't know if this is too. I just can't picture a calling station folding top pair here. So I even have him calling with King 2 suited.
Yeah. Okay.
Down on the river.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. I've got him folding all 8s, except for. Let's see. I have him folding all 8s except for. Let's see. He folded ace 8 offsuit. I'm saying he's folding 8s and he's calling with a pair of 9s. I don't know if that's. Do you agree with that, or is it?
I think it's around the right kind of. Yeah, it's about right. What's really important here is to think about how many combinations of King X hands or hands where we've got him beaten are there when he calls, and how many combinations are there of 2 pair or better hands where we're beaten. Because obviously the river card is a flush card. It's another heart, and so whether or not our bet is a good bet will depend on how many hands in his range we're actually beating when he calls. Because although he's a calling station, this river's not a good river. It's not a good river for us because it's a heart. And so the way you've built your range will determine whether or not this is a good bet. So what was your final conclusion on this, Steve? What did you think of the all-in at the end of the day?
Well, this is where I kind of fell apart in the hand. At least the range that I've got him on, we're winning 74% of the time, and he's winning 26%. You know, like I said, I think he's folding all 8s and he's calling all 9s. But I don't know if, even though we're winning a lot more often, would it be more profitable to bet something like, I don't know, 10 big blinds, and then if he shoves, we're always beat, and he's always got the flush, or he's got a 4 or a set? Or would it be more profitable to just shove in the 30 big blinds because we're winning so much more often that...
Well, when you're assessing the profitability of this bet, you really just need to think about, out of all the combinations he calls with, so not his range right now, but his range when he calls.
Okay.
Yeah. How many of those combinations are you winning? How many are you losing? Count them up. If it's more than 50% that you're winning, it's going to be a profitable bet.
Okay.
And that's one really simple way of working out whether you've got value to make a value bet. And the way you've built your ranges, it's turned out the answer is yes. Actually, I concluded by the end of this that I had 46% equity against his calling range, and that wasn't enough. The reason mine's come out at less is that I have narrowed his range slightly more, and I started with a narrower range. Okay. And therefore, by the time he arrives at the river, I believe he has got flushes, 2 pairs, sets, full houses more often than when he's got a King X hand, which is the only real hand I'm getting value from.
Yeah.
So I determined by the end that I wasn't getting quite. I didn't hate the play. It was really marginal because I am getting value from King Jack, but he's not got king jack every time, and I may have been better off actually going with either a check fold or with maybe like a 10 big blind bet, which may look really fishy to you, but actually against this type of player, it works quite well because he's not sophisticated. So you make like a 20% of the pot bet, and if he raises, well, you fold, and sure, you've wasted some money, but you've saved some money as well.
Yeah.
And when he calls, he's probably got king high, so at least you get some value from the hand.
Yeah.
So it's a bit better than checking and then having him check behind and missing value when he's got king jack. So that little bet can actually work as a kind of a cheat to get a little bit of extra value, whilst at the same time saving yourself your tournament, because you're going to be down to 10 big blinds if you lose this pot. So the ICM factor is a consideration. So that was the conclusion I came to.
Okay, I was talking to my brother about this hand. Talking with my brother about this hand last night because he came in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And so I showed him the program and your book, and he I said, I really I can't articulate why, but I feel like this is a bet fold on the river, and like you said, just betting 10 big blinds, and if he raises here, we're never good. And or if a calling station is able to bluff me on this river, then good for him.
Well, yes, exactly.
Right? But I just really felt like it was a bet fold. But I think you articulated why better than I could.
But this is the great thing about, you see, you may as a good poker player naturally feel the right response, but if you can arrive at that conclusion in a logical and rational manner, going through the ranges and thinking it through, mathematically, then it's so much more powerful. It gives you so much more confidence that you are doing the right thing. Yeah. And that can help you in so many hidden ways. So you're making this transformation from being a player who's playing on feel to being a player who's really thinking in ranges.
Yeah, who can back it up with proof and math.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through it myself. It's I spent more than half of my poker life not doing this. I'm doing pretty well, but now that I am doing it, I do feel a lot more powerful and just a much smarter poker player.
Yes. Right on. Okay. Well, we got one more here. This is hand number 16. First, I'm going to tell you about Elliot Roe. Let's get some meditation tapes for poker. For any kind of game you play, you need to have a warm-up routine before you play. Spend 10 minutes and listen to an MP3 of the type of game that you're about to play. So if you're a cash game player, if you're a live player, if you're an online player, if you play spin and goes, maybe you need a little bit of a mental workshop. He's got those too. You can listen to his Leak Buster package. He's got a Mindset Booster package. He even has a Hypnosis for Life value pack. I've got all of them. I put them all on my phone, and I listen to one every single day, whether I'm playing poker or not. If I'm not playing poker, I listen to his Life value pack. If I am going to play poker, then I put on the MP3 for an online tournament MP3, or if I played live cash not too long ago, I listened to one of those and I came out $300 ahead. So these things really work. You can try one out for free. Listen to his 7-minute tilt buster. It's free. Put it right on your phone as a gift from me to you. Elliot Roe, The Mindset Advantage. Click on the link in the show notes. It'll take you straight there to the free MP3. If you do buy one, use the code HUPOKER. You'll score yourself a discount and you kick back some to your favorite podcast. Okay, let's see. We are hand number 16. You are at the final table of an online turbo, $215, 180-man tournament. I'm assuming this sounds like stars. And many of the players at the table are in push-fold mode. And that seems appropriate because going around the stack sizes here, we're 8-handed. We've got 6 bigs, 9 bigs. We have 8 big blinds. Then there's 15, 31, 15, 9, and 15. So we're in the same position. We're in the low jack. There's 2 folds in front of us, and we've got pocket 10s. So this, I think, falls pretty squarely in our, with 8 big blinds. I don't think we should really be doing anything other than shoving or folding here. And 10s falls right in that shove range. So with 8 big blinds in the low jack, we shove all in. And the next player folds. And the cutoff, that's the range that we're building right now for the cutoff. So the cutoff, he's got 31 big blinds, and he's a solid, tight, aggressive player. It says here in the workbook, first, assign a calling range to the player in the cutoff. Consider his stack size and the fact that there are 3 players left to act behind him. He's got the button, the small blind, and the big blind, who have 15 bigs, 9 bigs, and 15 bigs respectively. What percentage of all hands will he call with? What I did for him is I said that I think you've got a couple of examples here. Do you think he calls with pocket 8s, ace jack, or king queen suited? I think he's going to call here with pocket 8s. Now, as far as calls, if we've shoved 8, he's got 31 bigs, and there's 2 guys with 15 big blinds behind him. I think if he's going to play a hand, he should probably just shove all in, right? Because he's never going to call. He's never going to call 8 big blinds and then have one of the 15 big blinds stack shove and then fold, right?
No, so, and when he shoves back, the remaining players are all they can't call without aces really. Maybe kings, but that's it. They've got they can only call with aces, maybe kings.
Yeah, just because of ICM, we're 8-handed now. We're guaranteed $800, and first place is $10K. Then that really puts the onus on the 3 guys behind him, where they have to wake up with, like you said, a really nutted hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think 8s plus is pretty accurate. I don't know. What do you think he's doing there with 7s?
Well, it's a very good question. It depends a little bit on how wide he perceives our shove. If we're game theory optimal, then he can actually just about profitably reshove 7s. But you're right on the money. I mean, if you're in this type of spot, 8s is usually a go-to hand, as 8s and better, ace jack suited, maybe ace 10 suited, ace jack suited, and then ace jack off and better, maybe ace queen off and better. And that's quite often a good go-to range for this type of spot. Actually, you can go a little bit wider here, but not too much wider. And I don't know what your percentage was, but Game Theory Optimal came out at, I think, 7.2 or 7.4%. No king queen suited, which was break even. But yeah, pocket 6s was like just marginally profitable. I would never recommend that. I think 8s is a really good benchmark. And then if you include ace 10 suited, that's fine. And then ace jack off, that's also fine.
Really? Okay, I would be folding ace jack off there, but
yeah, and I think that's fine as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be folding king queen suited, ace jack off. I would fold ace jack suited. Man, I could go either way on that. Yeah. Okay, but you're saying ace jack suited is a reshove there.
Yeah, I mean, I plugged these numbers into Hold'em Resources Calculator, HRC, which is a tool that I use for making these pre-flop decisions.
Okay.
It's an ICM tool which gives very, very fast and accurate information. It's about the best there is for this type of decision making.
Okay.
Really sophisticated software and easy to use. I found that, it does depend a little bit on his perception of your all in. So if you're shoving too tight, then obviously he's got to be a bit careful, even with pocket 8s and ace jack. He's got to be careful with those hands. But if you're shoving nice and loose, then he can definitely go out to 7-8% of his hands, maybe even 9%.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so eights is a call. Ace Jack is a call. King Queen is a fold.
Yeah, and I find that people when they make mistakes here, King Queen suited is quite often a hand that is plus EV in terms of chip EV, to make the call with King Queen suited sometimes, but it's nowhere near plus dollar EV. And if people don't understand what that means, it's in terms of cash games, you talk about a plus EV simply in terms of chips because that's what you're playing for. But in tournaments, plus EV should be in terms of dollars in the payout structure. So the chips that you stand to win are worth less than the chips that you're putting at risk. Yeah. So for that reason, there's this disparity that you need to take into consideration. So a hand like King Queen suited, although on average you might make chips, it might have positive equity, it might be a plus EV, chip EV call. In this spot, it's definitely not going to be a good call because of the value of the chips that you're going to lose. Okay.
All right. So the next part of the problem is, we've got 8 big blinds. We shove them from the low jack with 10-10. And the next scenario is everyone folds to the small blind. So now we got to construct a range for the small blind. And he has 9 big blinds. So we have 8, he has 9. It says, next, focus on the player in the small blind. What is their calling range in this spot? Consider their stack size and the ICM pressure they are under. And so, again, we've got 8. They've got 9 big blinds, but there's another player at the table who's going to be in the big blind next who has 6 big blinds. And then after him, there's another player with 8 big blinds. So this guy is tied for second from the bottom in chips after we shove, or I guess third from the bottom because we've got 8. But what's the small blind's calling range here? I think at least what I got. Tell me how I'm looking here, Ben. But I got him calling 7s plus, Ace King off, Ace Queen suited plus, and folding King X. Is that right?
Yeah, King X is definitely a fold, so that's good. Pocket 7s is a bit risky.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it's 5%. It's good. Yeah, it's a good range. You've done well. You've done very well. You could. I can't remember if 7s is just plus EV or just negative, but it's very close. The ICM pressure is massive on the small blind.
Yeah.
So that tilts it in favor of being a tighter range. But then the fact that he's got 1 big blind invested and there's only 1 player left to act, well, that tilts it back in favor of, calling a bit wider. His pot odds are a bit better. So there's a bit of a balancing act here. And you mentioned that there's a couple of short stacks on the big blind next. That's important too. So I wouldn't be taking a marginal gamble in this spot. And I think 7s might be a little bit marginal. So I'd probably go 8s again here. Okay. But Ace King, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, and maybe Ace Queen suited. So not very many hands.
Okay, we're folding Ace Queen off here.
Possibly not. It's very marginal. I think it was 5-point-something% was the correct range by the calculator. But if you're going to make a mistake here, you want to be being a little bit too tight.
Okay.
You definitely don't want to be getting too loose in this spot.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay, so pretty damn tight. So we're not calling with any King X. King Queen suited is a fold, just like it was for the cutoff.
Yeah, if you think about equity in the prize money, which is a great thing to think about. Right now, this guy's got, let's say he's got, 15% equity in the prize money. If he loses, he goes right down to 2.5% of the prize money, because that's what the $800 is he gets for 8th place. So he goes down. I've got the numbers wrong. It's probably more like he starts with 10%. He goes down to 2.5%. So by losing 9 big blinds, he loses, say, 7.5% equity in the prize money. By doubling up to 20 big blinds, his equity in the prize money doesn't go from 10% to 20%. It goes from 10% to like 14%. So he only actually gains, the chips he wins are worth like half of the chips that he loses.
Okay.
And that's why you've got to be so tight with these types of calls. And players who really understand ICM, and when you're looking at big final tables like the World Series final table, and you see the players being a bit nitty, it's not that they're scared of gambling, it's that they understand the ICM implications and they're having to play really tight, and it's just part of the pressure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so the next part of the problem, now we go to the big blind. So we've got 10-10 from the low jack. We shove. It folds all the way around to the big blind. We've got 8 bigs. The big blind has 15. Let's now focus on the player in the big blind. What is their calling range in this spot? Consider that they have 14 big blinds back after posting the big blind, and consider the ICM pressure they are under. What do you think is the weakest of each category that the big blind would call your all in with? And we got pocket pairs, ace X, and king X. So for him, I put in the big blind. Now he's got almost twice our stack. So I put him as 7s plus. I'm wondering if I should have put 6-6 plus though. But in that spot, I'm trying to think if I'm definitely folding 5s. I feel like 6s is very marginal, but I'm calling with 7s. I'm calling ace jack off plus. I'm calling, I wrote ace 10 suited plus, and now I'm wondering if that was a mistake. And then as far as king X, I put king queen off plus, and I also wrote king jack suited plus, but that may be a mistake as well. What do you have as range there as, Ben?
Yeah, a little bit wider, just because of the pot odds and the fact that the ICM pressure is a little bit less, because he could lose this hand and still stay alive enough to get into 5th place, or he's not automatically. It's a big dent in his chips if he loses, but he's not automatically eliminated. So the ICM pressure is a lot less, and his pot odds for calling are much better, and there's no risk of a player behind calling. So the big blind can actually go as wide as 9-10% of his hands.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, quite a lot of pocket pairs, 5s, I think. Ace 10 suited, definitely. Ace 9 suited was just positive, okay. although I would be somewhat reluctant. And Ace 10 off, and King Queen suited is now callable for the first time. So this is the first moment where a king X hand is okay to call with. I think king jack suited was break even.
Okay. So we're better off folding there than calling if it's break even, just lower variance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really, gives you an idea.
5 plus is profitable there.
The small pocket pairs, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s are really, really risky. You've got to have a really clear understanding of your opponent's range to get this right. And I would recommend in this type of spot staying clear of 2s through to 5s. 2s, 3s are just a fold usually, but sometimes you can get away with a plus EV call with 4s, 5s, 6s, and yeah, this type of spot's really marginal. And if I'm honest, I would tend to fold 5s nearly every time, but I think technically you can call with it here.
Okay, but you're definitely calling 6s.
Yeah, I think so. I think you should be calling with 6s here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. And then this is what's kind of interesting about this one is it says now, what if your stack was different? What if instead of 8 big blinds you had 12? We still have 10s and we shove all in. So now we repeat this and we add in the button here. So what are the calling ranges for the cutoff, button, small blind, and big blind. They all have the same stack, so the cutoff's got 31 bigs, button has 15, small blind's got 9, and the big blind has 15. And this time we shoved with 12 big blinds. So our range is tighter here because we've got 4 more big blinds than we did when we had 8. It says, now repeat this hand from the beginning, but this time you have 12 big blinds instead of 8. What impact does this have on the calling ranges of each player? Write down the percent form of each range, of the range each player would call, with assuming the players between you and them have all folded. So, the cutoff having 31 big blinds, I put him as 9s plus, ace queen off plus. How does that sound?
Yeah, it's good. It's slightly tight, but it's good. And a slight tightening is what's needed because of the slight increase in risk, right?
Yeah.
But there's not. It's not affecting him as much as, say, it's affecting the big blind, right?
Yeah.
The decision, the pressure on the chip leader is always going to be much less. The ICM is less intense on him. So he can run fairly similar, just like you've done there, just narrow it slightly. And I don't want to get bogged down in the precise numbers. Perhaps we won't go through all of these now. But what I want to make clear to listeners is that what we've done here is shifted one of the parameters. So instead of us having 8 big blinds, we've got 12 big blinds. And we're analyzing what difference that makes. And this is what you should be doing if you're working through this workbook. You should be looking at, this spot and then getting excited about it and go, oh, let's change that up and see how it affects things. That's how you really start seeing the big picture of how this all fits together, and really get to grips with range against range working. So, yeah, I mean, do you want to run through the rest of it? Or, I mean, it's quite a lot of specific percentage stuff.
I guess I think we got the main concept here is that since we're shoving 12 bigs instead of 8, I think everyone's got to tighten up just a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. This is an interesting book, Ben. That's pretty exciting that you got to be a part of it, and you got to do it with the legend. And it's a neat format, and I like how it's at least what I call active learning. You're not passively reading a book.
Yeah.
This really forces you to sit down and really think about it and plug in ranges, and this is a really cool concept. It's neat.
Yeah, absolutely. If people are interested and want to learn more, they can come to my website, which is postfloppoker.com, and visit us there. I also run the Postflop Poker podcast. We're friends of you. We're friends of the show, Steve, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes. I saw you've got Merv on the show. He and I had a little romp out in Vegas. We were both drunk at a strip club together. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was great.
What happens in Vegas and all that? Yeah.
It apparently it doesn't stay in Vegas. It gets broadcast on a podcast. So there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, you interrupted me. I was doing my spiel,
sorry,
and I don't want to leave Split Suit out because Split Suit's he's the king of ranges, and he's done 2 of these workbooks, one for live players, one for 6 month players, and he's got a whole different bunch of products available on range analysis. And if you're interested in those, then get along to splitsuit.com because that's his website. And our workbook will be there as well. So you can purchase it either at postfloppoker.com or at splitsuit.com.
Right on. And you guys can get the book. It's an ebook for $69.99. He's got several packages here. He's got the book and software. It's a full color ebook. He's got 6-month license for Hold'em Resources Manager, lifetime license for Flopzilla, Split Suits Custom Flopzilla ranges. That one's $129.99, and then he's got the Titan edition. So he's got you made some videos for this one, Ben, and yeah, go to postfloppoker.com, check it out, and I'm excited. I'm basically talking into the future here because it hasn't come out yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So this is cool. But do you have anything else you wanted to plug in, Ben?
No, not at all. Just if you guys have not listened to the Post Flop Poker podcast and you want some more podcast love, we do strategy chat. We talk through post flop strategy. And if you've not checked it out, come along and have a listen, because I think you'd enjoy it.
Yes, I listen to it as well.
We have a mixture of accents. People love it. We've got my Manchester tones. We've got a Dutch guy called Mike, who's also a poker author, and Merv from Australia, who likes Vegas strip clubs.
Yes, the Aussie in there. Yes, right on. Well, thank you for tuning in. Go to headsuppoker.poker for anything to do with the Heads Up Poker podcast, and you have a great week. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
What's the difference between someone who wins at life and someone who loses? And that's a thought that's worth running through your mind. That's something worth getting curious about if you want to win. What separates us? What is it that makes us different from each other? Let me tell you a secret. Life responds to deserve. Life responds to what you deserve. Life doesn't respond to what you want. Life doesn't respond to what you need. Life responds to what you deserve. And so if you want more, the only way to get it is to deserve more. How do you deserve more? You take action. You take right action. You take the action that's required of you, that you know is required of you in order to get to where you want to be, in order to get what you want. Now the best thing is, you don't have to be great to get started. You can make up what you lack in talent right now with boost and effort and giving more and working harder and fighting further and giving more than everyone else. If you can stay consistent enough, if you can stay patient with your passion, if you can stay in the game for long enough, you will win. If you keep trying, you keep working on it day and night, you give it all you got, you will make it. Don't move from side to side with every distraction that comes up. Don't let it catch you. Don't let it take you away from your purpose. Stay on the road to success. Stay on the road to winning. Stay on the road that you need to stay on to get what you want. That's the only way. You stick through no matter what forever until you get the results that you want. You don't give up when you're halfway through. When you're halfway through and the plant is just about to break through the ground, do you give up? No! If you care about it, if you're passionate about it, if it is what you truly love to do, how long do you keep going before you give up?